We knew it would be interesting, if not fascinating, and maybe even inspiring when Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, decided to take the reins over at Twitter. Reached into his pocket, got $44 billion and said, yeah, let's fix this thing. And in the meantime, it appears that he's trying to fix the notion of free speech and the free exchange of ideas, even odious ideas in our country. And that can be inspiring, as I said. But what is he really up against now as the lines are drawn in the world of big tech? It seems like it's Elon Musk versus everyone. Frederick is the director of Tech Policy Center over at Heritage Foundation and a former Facebook analyst. Kara, thank you for joining us on this.
Of course, anytime.
Am I overstating the case? I mean, we saw just in the last 24 hours, Elon Musk is now facing off with Google, with Apple, maybe even with Amazon as well. And what exactly has he done that they're so angry about?
Well, he's pledged to make Twitter a platform for free speech. And what I think is at issue here is, I've been saying it over and over again, but I think it bears repeating, is there's an ideological monopoly that's going on at the highest levels of these tech companies, not just executives at this point, but all of the middle layer of personnel, et cetera, to the sort of lowest grunt workers here. And when these tech companies make decisions, when there's hullabaloo about the content on their platforms, even from within, from externally, then they all sort of are of the same mind. Yeah. And we saw this, I think, most evidently when it came to the Hunter Biden laptop scandal during election season in 2020, when Facebook said that the FBI pressured them to be on guard about this story from the New York Post about the Hunter Biden laptop as potential Russian misinformation. They complied. Twitter looked at Facebook and vice versa, and they thought, okay, we're going to have to do the same thing. So they look for green lights among themselves to move in ideological concert. And Elon is basically, putting a thumb in the eye of that practice. He's saying, I'm going to break that monopoly that you guys have on the flow of information for Americans.
Well, because it reached such a level of absurdity when Twitter banned the account of Babylon Bee, which is a satirical site everybody knows. So anything that they said, which again was not harmful, but it was a joke, and they decided to suspend them. So let's lay out sort of the Elon Musk mandate here. He says that he's going to unsuspend everybody's account unless they broke the law or were guilty of spam. That means you are going to get some messages that some would term as hate speech. Why is it other companies are concerned about that? Are they afraid, if you open the door to hate speech, we could be exposed to lawsuits or something? What really is the danger?
I mean, I think there's an element of that as well. Of course, we don't want things like pornography rampant on these platforms. But let's be honest, Twitter has done a poor job of controlling child porn on its platforms to begin with. Yeah. One of the first things Elon Musk did, and he trumpeted this, and he should have, is remove hashtags that were used for child exploitation. Apparently, Twitter, if they hadn't been sitting on that, they hadn't found a technical fix yet, even though they employed so many people to sort of, in their words, try to figure out this problem. So that's a good thing. But I think what they are afraid of mostly is this return to the First Amendment as that guiding principle, right?
Think about what you just said. They're afraid of going back to but you're right. That seems to be what it is. In fact, I'm going to read you. This is an op-ed. I kid you not. This is not a satire from the Los Angeles Times. How Elon Musk's plans for Twitter could threaten free speech. How is this a threat to free speech?
Yeah, well, what I find is really, really peculiar is that these tech companies will claim the mantle of the First Amendment when they're basically censoring conservatives and say companies have free speech rights too. Yet when it comes to the users on their platforms, they have a less claim to the First Amendment than the companies themselves. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. So in my mind, it's just returning the marketplace of ideas to a genuine marketplace of ideas, which we know doesn't exist yet because these companies control the flow of information.
Well, so exactly. And even though Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, somebody controlling Twitter now, you'd think that he could now do whatever he wants. He can't really, because now you've got Apple and Google saying that they're going to potentially ban the Twitter app from their app stores. And then, of course, Amazon, led by Jeff Bezos, they actually control a lot of the server technology that hosts these platforms. So even Elon Musk kind of has to play nice with these guys or have this major showdown.
Exactly. And it's not just about content moderation per se, it's about access to information. And we see this when Google and Apple work together to kick Parler off Google Play and the App Store. We saw this when Amazon Web Services, which was really the real story here, declined to let Parler use their cloud hosting services anymore. And I'd ask your viewers to keep in mind the fact that Twitter runs on AWS, Amazon Web Services. So Jeff Bezos does have an element of a say here, unfortunately. And it's just, in my mind, you have these big, massive companies that are effectively acting as gatekeepers. Google and Amazon are gatekeepers when it comes to global market share for mobile operating systems, and any app who wants to be introduced in their store, it's game over if you can't be at Google Play or the App Store.
Right.
So we need to think hard about political, policy, legislative fixes to these issues, especially if Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, can't dig his way out or build his own.
Is there not any language here in the agreements that they have with AWS or with Google or Apple? How can AWS just decide, that's it, we're not going to host you anymore on our servers? There must be some trigger mechanism that says, you violated the agreement, now we're going to kick you off.
So this is common practice with tech companies. They often hide behind their terms of service or their community standards, which are purposely vaguely written so that all control technically goes to the companies, and they can basically have the discernment whether or not the user, or owners in this case, or developers can use their platform.
Wow.
So yeah, it's common practice. It's what they do.
Arbitrary.
All power to them.
Well, and of course, we hear from conservative small business owners and people that this happens to them all the time. You mentioned Parler, the whole, you don't like Twitter, build your own. Okay, somebody built Parler, and boom, it got knocked off by all of these companies. So how far can Elon Musk take this? He didn't like how Twitter was going, so he bought it. So now if Google and Apple kick him off the App Store, he starts his own phone company? He doesn't like what Jeff Bezos does with AWS? He starts his own server company? I mean, how much money does the guy have?
Probably not enough to do all that, but if anyone can, it's him, really. And frankly, this goes to the fundamental aspect of technology is you have applications that ride off of certain railways. So there's a tech stack that people talk about, and all of these are vulnerable. It's very, very difficult to make yourself censorship proof unless you go all the way to the foundational level of this technology stack. In Elon's case, it would be making his own hardware, making his own phone on which he ran his own proprietary software and had his own cloud hosting services. So it's got to run the gamut if he's really going to make all of this censorship proof and have a platform for free speech.
Finally, Kara, as we take it outside the realm of this clash of titans in the tech and financial sphere, the federal government also has a say in this, and we heard from the White House spokesperson yesterday that they're, quote, keeping an eye on Elon Musk right now. And their concerns have to do with, under the thinly disguised concerns over national security, what they call disinformation. Basically, it's lying. They're afraid that people are going to lie on social media and that some people will believe those lies. Is that really a national security concern? I mean, how does one make that actionable? I don't like people who lie, but it's not against the law to lie, is it?
No, not at all. And the fact that, disinformation has now become a catch-all for things the left doesn't like, I think that's extremely apparent from Hunter Biden laptop all the way through the COVID pandemic, which lots of questions swirled about it. But all of a sudden, misinformation was anything that the Biden administration disagreed with. So that, to me, is a flimsy excuse. Because if there were real national concern, security issues at play, the Biden administration would ban TikTok. Apple, Google, and all Amazon would not, or let's just say Apple and Google would not let TikTok be on their app store. Right. So to me, that's a smokescreen. It's a red herring, as a lot of these tech companies and the government do when it comes to using national security as a smokescreen for their real intent, and that is to not allow the marketplace of ideas to be a free one.
I think it's also fascinating and incredibly instructive that the two examples you picked out, things that the Biden administration didn't like, suddenly becomes disinformation. The Hunter laptop story and concerns about COVID, those things actually ended up being true. And it was called disinformation. All right, we're going to have to leave it there. But thank you for plugging us in on this, and we'll continue to watch it. It is fascinating. And, it's only our First Amendment and freedom of speech at stake. That's all. More to come on O'Connor Tonight.